Ladies and gentlemen, the Hong Kong Social Enterprise Challenge 2021 Inauguration Ceremony is about to begin. Please be seated and switch off your mobile phones to silent mode. 香港社會企業挑戰賽開幕典禮即將開始，請大家就座並將手提電話校至靜音模式。大家好，歡迎各位莅臨香港社會企業挑戰賽 Hong Kong Social Enterprise Challenge 2021 開幕典禮。Welcome to the Hong Kong SEC Inauguration Ceremony, organized by the Center for Entrepreneurship, the Chinese University of Hong Kong. Since 2007, the Hong Kong SEC has been the foremost intercollegiate social venture startup competition in Hong Kong. We encourage students to employ a creative entrepreneurial approach to solve social problems through a structured competition model. 由香港中文大學創業研究中心主辦嘅香港社會企業挑戰賽，從2007年舉辦至今，一直都係本地大專界唯一跨院校、跨學科嘅社會企業計劃創業比賽，致力推動年青人發揮創新精神，以商業運作模式解決社會問題，成為本地年青社企嘅搖籃。喺介紹今年挑戰賽嘅主題之前，我哋首先有請香港中文大學創業研究中心副主任吳永峰博士致歡迎詞。May we invite Dr. Frank Ng, Associate Director of the Center for Entrepreneurship, CHK, to give us welcoming remarks. 有請吳博士。
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm happy to be here and welcome all to join us today, Hong Kong SEC 2021. Before I start, I would like to extend a special welcome to our guest of honor, Mr. Jack Chen, Secretary of Home Affairs, Mr. Wei Fong, Head of Corporate Affairs of City Foundation, and Professor Simon Chu, our Associate Dean for External Engagement associated with the school, and our keynote speaker, Dr. Gary Chong and Mr. Richard Lee from CHK Institute of Health Equity. Certainly not to mention Professor Kevin Au and Dr. Elsie Sui for their continuous commitment. We could have put off this Hong Kong SEC without the commitment over the years. As mentioned, since 2007, we are not just a platform that initiate ideas of social entrepreneurship, but actually is a platform that channels ideas and important stakeholders together in support of solving important needs in the community. That's why I'm so happy, and I guess all of us are honored to be here to join this event as part of it. Before I go, I would like to thank you all again to be here, and I would like to echo the theme of this year: stay healthy, fairly. Thank you.
Please be seated. The Home Affairs Bureau has been very supportive to the social entrepreneurship development in Hong Kong. The Home Affairs Bureau has been very supportive to the social entrepreneurship development in Hong Kong. Since 2008, the HAB has been the main sponsor of Hong Kong SEC. 民政事務局一向都非常支持本地嘅社會企業發展，並且對社企教育嘅推廣不遺餘力。自2008年起，民政事務局一直都係挑戰賽嘅主要贊助機構。今日我哋非常榮幸邀請到民政事務局副局長陳積志太平紳士擔任開幕禮嘅主禮嘉賓。We are now very honored to have Mr. Jack Chan, JP, Undersecretary for Home Affairs, to be our officiating guest. 現在有請陳副局長上台致辭。
Professor Chiu, Dr. Chui, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. It is my great pleasure and honor to attend the inauguration ceremony of this year's Hong Kong Social Enterprise Challenge. The Home Affairs Bureau of the Hong Kong SAR government has been sponsoring the HKSEC since 2008. HKSEC provides an important incubating platform for our younger generation to realize their creative business ideas while at the same time achieving social objectives. Over the past 13 years, more than 1,500 business ideas for social ventures were generated. A total of 52 teams have actually turned their ideas into reality by setting up their own social enterprises, which I believe are all still in very good operation today. The awardees last year displayed an impressive spectrum of creativity in providing innovative solutions to social issues covering various industries such as food and beverage, education and healthcare, etc., etc. I hope that they will keep up their unrelenting efforts and aspiration in promoting the honorable spirit of business for good in society. The COVID-19 pandemic reminds us of the fundamental importance of health at personal, community, and global level. The promotion theme of HKSEC this year, Fairly Healthy, kindly addresses the challenges brought by the pandemic. It is very gratifying to know that the Timely Impact Award of this year will be awarded to the best team in addressing the healthy disparity issue. I'm also very happy to see the expansion of HKSEC partnership network in recent years. The regional connection with the Guangdong, Hong Kong, Macau, Greater Bay Area, and engagement in international competition offer invaluable opportunities for HKSEC teams to broaden their horizons and enhance their experience. Our government is committed to promoting the development of the SE sector through a multi-pronged approach, which includes building up SE's capacity, providing funding support, promoting cross-sector collaboration, and enhancing public understanding of SE. The development of SEs in Hong Kong is becoming more diversified, and public support to SEs is growing steadily. Looking forward, our government will keep the momentum of fostering SE development in Hong Kong through a range of support services under the principle of community-driven government support. Let us continue to work together to promote the diversified and continuous development of SEs in Hong Kong. And finally, I would like to take this opportunity to thank the Center of Entrepreneurs of the Chinese University of Hong Kong for their tremendous efforts and diligence in organizing HKSEC for another year to nurture our young social entrepreneurs in Hong Kong. I wish the HKSEC another year of success and hope all of you have a great time and enjoy the ceremony today. Thank you very much.
感謝陳副局長，請留位 please remain on stage.
May we now invite our officiating guests to come up on stage for the inauguration ceremony. 現在有請各位主禮嘉賓一齊為香港社會企業挑戰賽 HKSEC 2021主持啟動儀式。有請香港中文大學商學院副院長趙善明教授 Professor Siming Chiu, Associate Dean of CUHK Business School。有請策略夥伴花旗集團香港企業傳訊及公共事務部主管方偉先生 Mr. Wei Fong, Head of Corporate Affairs City Hong Kong。有請香港中文大學創業研究中心主任歐玉輝教授 Professor Kevin Au, Director of the Centre for Entrepreneurship CUHK。有請香港中文大學創業研究中心副主任吳永峰博士 Dr. Frank Ng, Associate Director of the Centre for Entrepreneurship CUHK。有請香港社會企業挑戰賽項目總監徐婉思博士 Dr. Elsie Choi, Project Director of the Hong Kong Social Enterprise Challenge。我哋而家有請工作人員派一個道具俾大家。Now we are going to hand out a prop to each of you。手上嘅果子呼應返今年嘅主題健康公平。有請各位嘉賓一齊將富有意義嘅道具掛上樹上面，希望大家一同攜手努力，壯大呢棵樹，將今年嘅主題傳揚開去。The props reflect this year's theme, Just Health. Please hang the symbolic fruits on the tree. Let's team up to make this tree even stronger and to spread the word about this year's theme. 各位主禮嘉賓準備好未？Ready？ 1、2、3。Hong Kong SEC 健康公平 Just Health Fairly Healthy 香港社會企業挑戰賽2021正式啟動 Hong Kong Social Enterprise Challenge 2021 is now officially launched。 好，多謝各位嘉賓。徐博士請留步，其他嘉賓可以就座。Now it is the time for the main theme. May we invite Dr. Elsie Choi, Project Director of the Hong Kong Social Enterprise Challenge, to introduce our theme this year. 有請香港社會企業挑戰賽項目總監徐婉思博士為我哋介紹一下 Hong Kong SEC 2021嘅主題。有請徐博士 ，Dr. Choi please。
唔該晒。Thank you very much. Good evening. Sorry, not good afternoon. I'm just thinking about what I should do tonight. So good afternoon again, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us here physically or on Facebook. I know that there are many old friends of Hong Kong SEC watching our live feed right now, but because there are some new faces here, so please allow me a little bit of time to introduce Hong Kong SEC and also to talk about our theme for this year. So, Hong Kong Social Enterprise Challenge is one of the longest standing competition, social venture startup competition of the same kind in the world. We started our journey since 2006 and is organized by Center for Entrepreneurship of CUHK. So far, we are so glad to see that close to 9,000 students participated in our competitions through the years and generated over 1,500 wonderful business ideas. There's three main pillars to Hong Kong SEC: education, competition, and incubation. First of all, education. At the university, education is very important to us. We would like to make sure that all the participants will learn something about social entrepreneurship and social issues through joining our program. So for the first round, all of the participants will have chance to learn about that and also some basic skill set on the lean startup. This year, we also have something new called Sdg Games, which I'm going to explain a bit more later. For the semi-final team, they will be given full attention from our consultant to provide lean startup one-on-one tutorial and some more workshop to help them to pitch their business ideas. Just to show you some pictures to show the engagement and the energy that our participants experienced through different workshops in the last few years. And last year, because of the pandemic, we have done a lot of things online, but it's also very, very effective, and we receive positive feedback from our participants. The SDG Games that I mentioned is called the 2030 Sdg Games. As you know that SDG has been really important for many of us, as the UN has advocates that it's very important for us to consider our social issues under this framework. And in order to help our challengers to understand a little bit more deeper about social impact and SDG, this experiential game can help them to learn it in a very fun way. And this game was actually developed in Japan and has received very positive feedback from many participants, including some leading organizations like Unilever, which is a very good way to help their employees to engage with the social issues. The competition part is, of course, very exciting, and with the generous support from the Home Affairs Bureau, thank you very much, the champion team will get up to 300,000 Hong Kong dollars seed money to help to start their business. And for the runner-up team, we each get 150,000 Hong Kong dollar maximum to kickstart their journey. So in terms of the competition, because we would like to encourage the young people to start social enterprise, so this is the program is actually open to the student and recent alumni and some young people. We believe that getting the seed money is just the beginning of the long journey, and we would like to see HKSEC as their key long-term partner to grow with them. So we provide a lot of incubation through mentoring and provide international exposure and continuous capacity building for the past winners. These are some of the pictures of their networking series, and also they learn a lot of new things. For example, last year we invited an expert in the intellectual property and IP design to kind of help these young people to understand the importance of protecting their IP. International exposure is always very important for the students, and with our proud partnership with Youth Collab, UNDP, and also City Foundation, each year we send one of our representative team to join the competition, and they did so well in the pitch, and also it's a great opportunity for them to network and exchange ideas with like-minded young people in Southeast Asia. So just last year, because of the pandemic, this was actually moved online, and they still make some friends on Zoom as well. As you can see, our alumni have done really well through different global competition that was supported by us. And going forward, this year, we actually engaged 2 more partners. One is the new GBA-focused social venture competition that is based in Shenzhen. Right. Another one is a global university startup World Cup run by an organization based in Denmark. So for both of these very good competition, our winning team will get the fast track to join the semi-final presentation. So we look forward to good news from them. So I'm sure that you're excited to know who are the winners for 2020 and 21 just last year. So we have 4 very different ventures that create 4 important social impacts. First one, Senior Delhi, is a food engineering venture with its own research facilities, and is committed to help some elderly people and people who have swallowing kind of issues to enjoy good food and get nutrients that they need. Sneldy is a company that offers SEN student management system to help teachers to better engage and teach the SEN students in Hong Kong. Bria is a one-stop solution to solve food waste problem by collecting surplus bread and turn them into very tasty craft beer. Last but not least, ScreenMed is a quick dementia screening system for the elderly. They also do some kind of personalized matching and referral program to recommend suitable kind of like a preventative or cognitive improvement activities for the users as well. You can see we have a broad range of different kinds of ventures, all very exciting and promising. And this year, our theme is fairly healthy. We try to incorporate the concept of fairness, health, and business idea together. This year, we are so honored to partner with CUHK Institute of Health Equity, which aim to encourage social business ideas that address the issue of health inequality in both physical and mental well-being. So we will offer some training to help the students, and Dr. Gary Chung is going to give us some quick start later by sharing some insight about health equity for all of us to learn. As part of this collaboration, we are going to pick one team which can most successfully incorporate the idea of health equity in their business so that they can contribute to the reduction of health inequality in Hong Kong. So $50,000 cash prize will be given to this team as a form of encouragement. So there are a lot of exciting things happening with Hong Kong SEC, and we look forward to your continuous support and engagement. So here is the official website, just in case for the audience, especially our live audience, who are not following our news yet. So please go to our website. And of course, we have social media on Facebook and IG, so please stay tuned for a lot of our news. Last but not least, I would like to, on behalf of the Chinese University of Hong Kong, to once again to express our deep gratitude to our main sponsor, the Home Affairs Bureau, and also the other very important people, such as our strategic partner, Citi and UNDP, and also all of these wonderful supporters and friends who have been with us through the journey of social entrepreneurship for so many years. And we look forward to your continuous support. Thank you.
多謝徐博士嘅簡介，請就座 ，Please be seated。現在有請主題講座嘅主講嘉賓，香港中文大學健康公平研究所鐘嘉琪博士上台講解一下健康公平嘅意義，同埋分享社企點樣實踐呢個理念。We are now honoured to have Dr. Gary Chung from the CUHK Institute of Health Equity as our keynote speaker. He will discuss the meaning of health and fairness and how social enterprise can accomplish both in his talk. Please welcome Dr. Chung. 有請鐘博士。
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for a kind introduction. I'm Dr. Gary Chung, as mentioned, the postdoctoral fellow of the CHK Institute of Health Equity. Today I'm going to give all of you a brief introduction of health equity. In simple words, it is to be healthy fairly across social groups in our society. I was invited to give this talk because, as Elsie just mentioned, health equity is the key theme of this year's Hong Kong SEC. As the theme for the Timely Impact Award, we have two main objectives. First, we would like to raise the awareness of social entrepreneurs to incorporate the concept and practices of health equity and the concept of social determinants of health into their business models and service delivery. And second, through their work, we'd like to engage and empower the communities for capacity building, especially for the more disadvantaged communities, so as to identify and address the needs and the social and health inequalities existing in our society. To achieve the above two objectives, you must first have a basic understanding on health equity. But before we dig into what is meant by health and equity, first distinguish the difference between equality and equity. And I think this is a very typical figure. This is sometimes a little bit oversimplified illustration, but it's a commonly used illustration for differences between equality and equity. And as shown here, three guys want to watch a baseball game, right? There are three guys in the blue, the tallest, and the red, the middle height, and the shortest purple guy. If we do nothing to help them, only the tall blue guy is tall enough to watch the game, and the other two just get blocked by the fans, right? But now, if we have a chance to offer help to them, what should we do? According to the principle of equality, everyone will be given the same, treated in the same way. So each of them will be given one box. here. So right now, or it's a little bit improved because 2 guys can watch a game, but leaving the shortest purple guy behind, he still cannot watch a game. But the question is, why should we allocate the resources equally when we clearly know that they have very different needs, right? And it is possible for us to redistribute the resources so that everyone will be happy, everyone can enjoy the game by redistributing 1 more box to the shortest purple guy so that everyone will be happy. And they are more equal in terms of the achievement, not just by the resources we give, right? So health equity is about the need. We are distributing the resources according to actual needs, rather than simply treating them equally regardless of their own background, their own situation. However, the reality is usually going to the opposite. In many societies with a high income inequality or wealth inequalities, the richest guy or the top guy here got almost all the resources. And the shortest guy is even more deprived of the basic necessities. He's all lower than before. So we should take some action to achieve equity instead of to widen the gap like here. And similarly, the concept is the same. You may find it hilarious if we give the same bike to the kids, to women, to men, and the disabled, as if one size can fit all. In reality, we should design the bike according to their needs. So you can see different sizes of bike, a small size for a kid, a medium size for the women, and a large size for the man. And also, you can see for the disabled, it's actually a specially designed 3-wheeled bike, and with a hand pedal because it can move the legs. So this is to achieve health equity by their needs. Okay, so when we can grasp the concept between equality and equity, we can put it in the context of health. So for health equality is about the absence of differences, variation and disparities in health across individuals. So this is about no absolute difference across individuals. They have to achieve the same level of health no matter what. But for health equity, it is about the absence of systematic health inequalities that are deemed to be unfair, unnecessary, unaffordable. So in this sense, part of the inequalities, part of the health inequalities are indeed health inequities. And whether some inequalities, some observed inequalities is equitable or not, requires some moral judgment. So we need a moral value and social value behind to judge what is meant by inequity. And there are 2 broad types of equity. The horizontal equity means to treat the equals equally. And the vertical equity means to treat the unequals unequally, so as to achieve a fair and need-based distribution of opportunities and social determinants of health, which I will describe in detail what is social determinants of health later on. And the core value of health equity is about social justice. And you find a very keynote paper about health disparities and equity. It clearly states that the issue is about justice. And the underlying ethical and human rights are that all people should be valued equally, and every person should be able to achieve their possible optimal health status without distinction based on their background, including but not limited to race, skin color, religion, languages, nationality, socioeconomic position, and also the gender, sexual orientation, disability, and also geography, and so on. The many factors that maybe the background, but they should have the same chance and potential to achieve the possible optimal health. And you may find that very similar because it is indeed in line with the first 2 articles of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. So you're right. This is about the right to health. Just because in this context we're talking about health, so it is the human right to health and the right to a standard of living adequate for health. Despite the growing policy and research attention, health inequity is still a global challenge. And this is the review report conducted by the Professor Sir Michael Marmot, a very well-renowned thinker and author, researcher in the field of health equity. He conducted several reports in many parts of the world, including the UK, the European region, and also the Pan-Americas, and more recently the Asian Mediterranean region. And also we will be conducting a series of reports in Hong Kong as well, which will be later on. But this is the example I want to pick to illustrate the concept of health equity. Because I picked the life expectancy because it is probably one of the most well-known health indicator that is easiest for you to understand. In many parts of the world, we observe a social gradient in health. And in terms of here, it is about the social gradient of life expectancy. And let's focus on the line within the light green dots first. It is about the total life expectancy, which means that it is the expected years that a person can live. This line is plotted against the x-axis, which is the area level income deprivation, so the percentage of income deprivation across the districts in England. And what we can see is this slope. Back in the most deprived region, the total life expectancy is only about 73 years, but it's gradually going up to 82 for the least deprived, so the wealthiest district in the UK. So right here is indeed a 9-year gap across district in the UK. But what is more important, or even worse, is a steeper slope for the lower line within the dark green dots, which is about disability-free life expectancy, meaning that the number of years one can expect to live in good health condition without any form of disability. And you can see, of course, it's lower than the total life expectancy because in the later life, we must spend, usually we will spend in some disability, but for those living in the most deprived areas, there are only 53 years living in only 53 years living without disability, but for the least deprived groups, they can live up to 70 years without disability. And in other words, if you take it as a proportion of life they can spend in good health, they're almost 30% of their life is spent in disability for those living in the most deprived areas, but only about 15% for those in the least deprived areas. And the absolute difference is actually 17 years compared to 9 years for the total life expectancy. So what makes the huge difference in the health differences? In this book, The Health Gap, Professor Sir Michael Marmot just mentioned, raised a very important question. Why should we treat people but then send them back to conditions that make them sick? And this question sets the scene clearly. It's not just about the health system, right? Because it's not just about to treat people, but rather, it is about the social conditions that have an impact on our health, range of social factors. And that's what we call the social determinants of health, the condition in which we are born, grow, live, work, and age. And let's watch a video for a further explanation on the social determinants of health.
Even before we're born, there are factors at play which influence our health and well-being. The conditions in which we're born, grow, and live can affect us and our health in different ways. We also react to them in different ways. Poverty, stress, lack of adequate housing, education, unemployment and poor access to transport and nutritious food are some of the things that can affect our health and life expectancy. The World Health Organization recognises that health and well-being are strongly influenced by social, economic and environmental factors known as the social determinants of health. The environments in which we are born, grow, live, work and age can have stronger influences on our health than our genetic family history or behavioural risk factors. A person's social and economic circumstances affect their health throughout their life. The relationship between income and health is on a gradient. This social gradient means that even a little bit of wealth can increase your likelihood of being healthier. A stable source of healthy food, appropriate, affordable and secure housing, education and employment, relief from financial distress, access to transport and services, loving and stable relationships, and being able to make choices about our lives means we are less likely to experience chronic conditions such as diabetes, cardiovascular disease, depression, anxiety, and other mental illness. How we are treated by and interact with others also has a huge impact. Stressful circumstances over a long time that make people feel anxious or unable to cope, discrimination, racism, social isolation, or just being treated as less than equal can lead to poor health. And the interplay between these factors and a person's socio-economic circumstances can compound the situation. Experiencing a lot of stress and feeling unable to change things can also lead to poor health. But as health...
Okay, we can just stop here because as the video just showed you, actually there are different levels of indicator social determinants of health, that social determinants that can affect our health. It's not just about our age or sex or genes that have an impact on our health, but a range of different social conditions, including the lifestyle factors and the social and community network and the social capital of our society, and also a range of different working conditions, including but not limited to food production, education, and work environment, employment, sanitation and healthcare services, and now very important in Hong Kong, a housing condition as well. And the more macroscopic perspective is also about the general socioeconomic, cultural and environmental conditions that altogether shape our health. They are interact with each other in shaping our health. And with reference to the rainbow diagram I've just showed you, we can have a quick overview of the context of Hong Kong and see how this different social condition can affect our health. And for the context of Hong Kong, we all know that we are enjoying a very long life expectancy. It's actually the longest over the world, with 82.2 years for the male and 88.1 years for female in 2019. Yes, it's ranked at top, surpassing Japan a few years ago. But at the same time, we are facing a series of challenges. We have a rapidly aging society with an increasing dependency ratio, and also the income inequality still remain high among the developed economies in the world, and we have a very unaffordable housing market at the moment as well. And also the GDP share on the social protection is rather low when compared to other developed countries or economies, and especially for our healthcare system, although we have although the inpatient care may be universal coverage, but the primary care is still a way to improve so as to achieve the health protection and health prevention. And under such a social context, and despite the longest life expectancy, and we still observe a social gradient between income and self-rated health. And this is actually the data collected from the population health survey, the population health survey conducted by the Hong Kong government in 2014 and 15. And when we plot the percentage of people who rate the health as poor or fair against their individual, their household income, we can see a clearly it's not just about those at the bottom who are at risk, but a social gradient. The lower their household income, the higher percentage they rate their health as poor or fair. And what is the implication behind is that if we just target those at the very bottom, which we think that they are at the highest risk, this is true, but only part of the inequality will be mitigated if we target only the most deprived one, because even among the relatively wealthier groups, a social gradient still exists. But what we can do to also flatten the curve, I will show you a concept later. And it's not just about the self-rated health, because you may find it rather subjective, right? It is your self-rated health status. But for the more objective our health outcomes like obesity, frailty, and vulnerabilities in older adults, and the presence of multiple chronic diseases, which is multimorbidity, and also the anxiety and stress and other mental health illnesses. The previous local research also show the social gradient and the health inequities in Hong Kong. So all the evidence converge to support the presence of health inequities in Hong Kong, which all of us should be aware of the fact and think a solution on how to mitigate such inequalities in Hong Kong. Several social conditions has been identified as the key drivers of the social gradient or health inequities in Hong Kong. I just named hardly some of them because of the time constraint. And first, of course, the education. The educational opportunities vary across the socioeconomic ladder. And in the previous local research in 2014, the poor, the children from a poor family, which is defined as having low income and also a low living standard, have a remarkably higher proportion of children who are deprived of a range of learning-related resources. Also, for the work and employment condition, we know that the lower skilled workers have substantially longer working hours. And you may be aware of that long working hours is actually of a health implication in terms of cardiovascular risk and cerebrovascular, so our psychosocial well-being in terms of anxiety and stress. Also, although we have launched, the Hong Kong government have launched a statutory minimum wage since 2011, and it will be adjusted every 2 years based on the inflation rate, but the rate is indeed still among the lowest compared with a range of different developed economies. That's what, which makes them difficult to afford the basic necessities in life, and especially with the rising commodity price in Hong Kong. Third, of course, the housing and living environment. Hong Kong has the most unaffordable housing market over the world, and in terms of the median multiple, the housing price and average housing price is indeed more than 20 times higher than the annual household income. So it's just more than 5 is indeed classified as severely unaffordable, but we are still 4 times above this threshold, so it's very, very, very severe. Also together with the shortage of the public housing supply, which waiting time for public housing is still 5.8 years on average, the number of people who are living in the subdivided flats and also the homeless person keep rising over the past 2 decades. We're 0.171 up to 0.226 million people living in the subdivided flats between 2013 and 2020, and also like 3 to 4 times higher percentage of the rate of the homeless people in Hong Kong between 2007 and 2018. And all of these factors in terms of the housing affordability stress and the poor living environment have a health implication on both physical and mental health. Fourth, aging is a global challenge, or especially in Asian economies, that we are facing a population aging and the increasing elderly dependency ratio. And it's expected until 2036 there will be 527 elders per 1,000 person of age between 15 to 64. So, which means that the burden of people in the working age is increasingly higher in the coming 2 decades, especially when the poverty rate among older adults is remain constantly high over decades. We also observed a rising labor participation over the past 10 years. And that it is a mixed implication. On one hand, it could be due to the financial insecurity in older adults because they no longer have income, but the commodity price is rising, so they have to sustain their life by contributing to the labor market. But at the same time, it may reflect a generally healthier population so that they can continue to work and contribute to the society. So, but in any ways, the good news is that we have an increasingly proportion of older adults with a secondary education or above, thanks to the 9-year free education launched in 1978. So presumably, the coming cohorts of older adults may have better health and digital literacy to manage their health. And of course, we have to help them to utilize those new resources, technology to manage their health. They still need our help. And fifth, of course, about the healthcare services. And despite the relatively equitable and capacious inpatient care in Hong Kong, because the inpatient care is covered by the public sector, 90% of it is covered by the public sector, but the primary care is largely driven by the private market, right? This is market driven. When you go to see a general practitioner, you have to pay with a high out-of-pocket fees. As a result of the rather pro-rich primary care, so supposedly this is the first point of contact when people get sick or will want to get some health consultation advice. But because of the pro-rich and primary care, the access to the primary care is poor, and the continuity care is also of a lower quality. Although there's launch of some voucher schemes or public-private partnership, and also the voluntary health insurance schemes, the commitment and effectiveness is still mixed up till this moment. And of course, for the COVID-19 ongoing pandemic, it is indeed a test for the capacity and resilience of the society and the healthcare system, the social system. And sometimes we'll see from the news that the ethnic minority, those of the lower socioeconomic status, will be being hard to say. The construction worker have to have lunch outside when the social distancing measure just launched. And so some of the examples that the government or the community have to take into account the different impacts across the social ladder of their policy and measures. It's not just about the COVID-19 specific outcomes in terms of infection or mortality, but also the worry. Those of low status are more worried about their financial status during the COVID-19, and the increase of stress level is also stronger in those in the less educated. And prolonged school culture for children have a pronounced impact on their development, especially for the low-income families and those with special needs. And this is a figure that created by our team showing that a wide array of social determinants of health are actually closely related to health equity. So you may be aware of that when we assess health inequities are usually measured against income, education, or occupation because they are actually called a socioeconomic position, which vary across the social class, the gender, and also ethnicity or race. Because of this social stratification, we are exposed to a differential exposure to a range of pathways, we can say. So the first pathway is the materialist pathway. It's about exposure to the access to the material circumstances, including the living and work conditions, also the food security, and also the behavioral factors like smoking, drinking, and sleep deprivation, and also sedentary lifestyle. And third pathway is the psychosocial factors, so the daily life stresses, like financial hardship or the burden of caregiving. And all this exposure will have an impact on the equity in health and our well-being. Of course, the health system and social cohesion can provide a safety net to the socioeconomic disadvantage if they're functioning well. But we should be also aware of the broader, wider structural determinants of health equities, which are the public policies, not just about the health policies, but also about public and social policy, the macroeconomic policies, and also the culture and social values. And this is, and I want to show you a video taking the example of the racism.
No matter the color of your skin, where you live, who you love, or who loves you, anyone can get cancer. But it doesn't affect everyone the same way. It's unfair and unequal. Where you live shouldn't determine if you live, but all too often it does. Meet Jenny and Marianne, best friends since elementary school. They rode the same bus and loved the same dance moves. Years later, both were diagnosed with breast cancer. They were devastated by the news. But research suggests Jenny has a better chance of surviving. Black women are 40% more likely to die of breast cancer than white women. Where people live, work, grow, and learn can greatly impact their cancer experience too. Jenny lives in an area with access to quality health care, affordable healthy foods, and reliable transportation. For Marianne, it's a different story. Due to generations of unjust discrimination, her community has limited or no access to those options. Marianne, like so many others, won't have a fair and just opportunity to prevent, find, treat, or survive cancer. The statistics tell a harrowing story. African Americans have the highest death rate and shortest survival of any racial group in the U.S. for most cancers. The cancer-preventing HPV vaccination rates among youth are lower in rural areas than urban areas. And research shows the LGBTQ community is likely to face greater barriers to care such as homophobia or transphobia, which can prevent early detection of diseases such as lung cancer. The list of disparities goes on and on. At the end of the day, access to quality care shouldn't be a privilege, it's a right. For Marianne, for Jenny, for all people. That's why
example of the racism, which is maybe more relevant to the European or the US context, but it's a good illustration of how the structural determinants of health have an impact on our health, because the social value and culture shape the racism in the society. And then with their racism, they have lower access to material and circumstances with food or with healthcare services like screening, and that in turn affect their health. And that's a good illustration of what we can, and this also can apply to Hong Kong if we switch the racism to the socioeconomic position as well. So similar in the illustration. Of course, the impact of health equity is not a cross-sectional. This is across the time frame, a life course. This is back when we are still in our mother, and the nutrition and the maternal status have an impact in our health. at the start. And in the preschool and school level, there's about skill development and whether we have access to the training or the education opportunities will have an impact on the achievement in later life. And also even if we have attained education, whether this education can fit the occupational needs of the society is another question. So we need to have training and employment for the work that can contribute to society effectively. And for retirement, it's about how we can protect from the financial hardship when we have no more income. And over life course is about the prevention and health promotion. So it's not just about to prevent disease, but to promote the health and well-being over the life course. And from Professor Sir Michael Marmot in his Marmot Review in 2010, there's 6 policy objectives, which is incorporated this life course approach. So first is to give every child a best start of life, and then enable young people and adults to maximize their capacity and control over their life, and also a fair employment, healthy living standard for all, important for all. And also sustainable place and healthy place in communities is about the social environment. It's no longer individual achievement, but the context. And also the health system, whether we can prevent ill health and also promote health. And we're calling the social gradient of health I've just mentioned, both in Hong Kong and the UK, about the life expectancy one. We can see a gradient of health. We would like to introduce the concept of proportionate universalism. So let's focus on this graph. So in the pink line, this is current baseline. So if nothing is done, then, and we take the most optimistic approach, the overall health improved. But the extent of improvement is lower than among the most deprived, the wealthiest. So actually, if we do nothing, the inequality will widen. And most of our existing social policy usually address and target the most disadvantaged social groups. So for the orange line, the improvement is substantial among the most deprived group. But for those at the relatively higher, because they have no longer entitled to the social welfare schemes in the society, so there's not much improvement. So huge disparities across here. But for proportionate universalism, we propose actions to have a sufficient scale and intensity to be universal, but also proportionate, targeted to reduce the steepness of the gradient. So we should do more to the most deprived, but don't leave the wealthier left behind, okay? We still have to help them so that the whole curve, the whole gradient can be flattened, right? In terms of our recommendation, the most important one, which is related to the social enterprise challenges, is to engage the civil society, and not just about the academic institution like us, or the entrepreneurship center, but also the business sector beyond the government. We'd like to engage a wide range of civil society to help tackle the health inequity issue in Hong Kong. And there's probably a role for social enterprise in mitigating the health inequalities and inequities. And this is in line with the recent movements of the ESG, the environmental, social, and governance. And they're calling for incorporating health into this framework. So for business, they start to realize the importance of health.
Thank you, Dr. Chung，多謝鐘博士。而家徐博士會分享一下佢對於公平健康嘅睇法。Now Dr. Choi would like to share her thoughts on fairly healthy. Dr. Choi, please.
Thank you very much, Gary, for a very good introduction. Because this is a new concept, so we would like him to kind of share some conceptual kind of framework about health equity. But I would like to kind of bring it down to our Hong Kong Social Enterprise Challenge. I think in Hong Kong, we are very blessed that we have a very good infrastructure here. we have very efficient healthcare system and other support systems. Having said that, just like any developed economies in the world, be it UK or US, there's still a lot of room for improvement. And I think this year, we would like to call your attention into how can we use entrepreneurial means and also looking at this unmet needs and some opportunity area. How can we co-create a better future? Because I think to make a society a better place is not the role of only one person, it's not just the role of government or policy, but also everyone's engagement. And that is the spirit of why we would like to have the Social Enterprise Challenge to engage the young people to solve the social issues and create some social value together with us. So thank you very much, our speaker, and also I think that's a very good opportunity for us to reflect on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Choi and Dr. Chung. Now we'll move on to the Q&A session. 如果大家想進一步了解健康公平嘅話，而家可以踴躍發問啦。
Thank you. I guess it's very applicable to health issues just like strokes or cancer. How about mental health? Is this still also applicable? Sure. So it's just the same?
Oh, okay. Of course, for the health and well-being, we incorporate both health and social and mental health. There are three components that we won't miss any one of them when we're talking about health equity. It's not just about the physical health or the cardiovascular risk, also mental health. Of course, the factors affecting the physical health and mental health are different. But when we look at the social determinants of health in our living condition, of course, for the most hardware like air pollution or noise pollution, they may have affect our health physically, but also psychosocially, right? In a very crowded living place or with very green spaces for them to do exercise or to relax time, leisure time, this have an impact on our health. So for the social determinants of health, they can have multiple health impacts on health within one social determinants. And we are talking about, we have to, in research, we will identify the risk factors of the health outcomes. So for physical health, they have a set of risk factors, but for mental health, there's another set of risk factors. But these risk factors may be also concentrated in several social determinants of health that are in common between the physical and mental health. Okay.
Firstly, thank you so much for your sharing. It was very insightful to see the status of not just Hong Kong, but in the world, what health equity is like. So my question is, what are some of the initiatives of the Institute of Health Equity that we can volunteer our time with or we can be a part of to help implement equity in health?
I see. So it's about some ongoing project in the Institute. Actually, of course, because of the ongoing pandemic, we have research on the pandemic and health and social impact on children, school children as well. We are going to conduct data collection, and hopefully after data collection, we can identify some key risk factors and we can co-mediate between the social position and mental health. And once we can identify them, it may be a potential target for intervention that we can incorporate the effort of the social enterprise. And also, I just showed you a life expectancy graph, right? But in Hong Kong, actually, there's no such data at the moment. So we would like us to also contribute to this later on. Of course, if you're interested in our work, we're very happy to have a collaboration with the social enterprises so as to further tackle the health equity issue. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Zhong. As you listed 3 recommendations relevant to the social enterprise, in your opinion, which one will be the priority suggested for the new social enterprises to execute? like raising the society's awareness or any else?
Can I have the slide for the recommendation? Yes, this one. So your question is about what are the top priority?
Yeah,
Yeah. Actually, this is the brief recommendation I've just skipped because of time constraint, but we think that all these 4 points are very important. I can share a little bit through this chance. We have to raise the public awareness and also on social entrepreneurs about the health equity issues. Because sometimes they may be already doing something on health equity, but they are not aware of it, right? Because they're just focused on the social impact of their work. But if they are more aware of the health implication behind their work, they can not just tell people what the health impact is, but also think how to maximize the health impact through their services, how to improve and refine the service. And that's why that's why I'm here to share the concept of health equity so that you will know more about in your service model. The second point is not exactly related to the social enterprise, but it's important for monitoring the health inequity in Hong Kong so that you have the ground, you have the evidence to show people what is the importance of the work of your intervention, your social enterprise on the health equity, or you're addressing this alarming gap. And what we need is a database that link the social data and the health data together. Most of the time in Hong Kong, we have good data collection in health and also good data collection in the social sector, but they can't link together. That's a waste of, there's a gap here. So if we can bridge this gap, then we will have a better idea that what we should do and what is the most important thing to target on. And that's what we are still working on to answer this priority health issue that should be targeted. As I've mentioned, for the COVID-19, that is a test for the resilience and capacity of the healthcare system and social system. So we would like you all to advocate together to incorporate the concept of health and health equity to different policies, not just the health policy, not just about the Food and Health Bureau, but other sectors. They have to bear in mind of health equity. And of course, the last one I've just mentioned. I hope I can answer your question.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Chung. Now, by conclusion, Dr. Chung would like to share one final video clip on health equity.
Economic participation enables young people to improve their quality of life, mental and physical health, feelings of life satisfaction, and involvement in society. Research carried out by the Centre for Social Impact shows that work integration social enterprises, or WISE, positively influence the health and well-being of young people by providing opportunities for them to develop their personal and technical skills, their social interactions, and their understanding of themselves and their interests. WISE provide diverse work settings and spaces for learning, flexible and responsive wraparound support, a blended culture of education and employment, and a respectful and inclusive workplace. To find out more about how you can support or develop effective WISE, have a look at the evidence and practice summary.
And this is actually the last video I would like to share with you in my last slide of presentation just now. And it is specifically related to the social enterprise. We are not very aware of the WISE, the work integration social enterprise, but it's actually have a health equity impact. This is proven by the Center for Social Impact. And then we should be aware of the impact of this kind of operation as well on the impact of health equity. And that's the end of my presentation.
Thank you, Dr. Chung, again for the inspiring talk. 喺今年3月，香港社會企業挑戰賽2020產生咗4隊得獎社企，佢哋分別係 Senior Daily、Sneldy、Bria 同埋 ScreenMat。佢哋都喺各種挑戰之下不斷努力，共同創造新機會。Our Hong Kong SEC winning teams last year in 2020 keep co-creating new opportunities under different challenges. Let us welcome Dr. Elsie Choi, Project Director of Hong Kong SEC, to come onto the stage again, together with the representatives from the Hong Kong SEC 2020 winning teams to share with us their experience. 現在有請 Hong Kong SEC 項目總監徐遠思博士帶領勝出隊伍嘅代表嚟到台前同大家分享一下。其中 ScreenMat 得獎之後已經投入繁重而且有意義嘅社企工作，今日無暇出席典禮。不過佢哋都好有心拍攝咗一段短片，分享佢哋嘅經驗。Today's ceremony is missing a big name from the winners, as ScreenMat has been busy with significant social enterprise work since winning the award and is unable to attend the event. But they did take the time to create a short video sharing their experience. 我哋一齊睇下條片啦。
大家好，我哋係 ScreenMat。1分鐘認知障礙篩查平台，我哋嘅畫畫平台可以幫長者提供一個簡單快速嘅方法嚟到評估患上認知障礙症嘅風險。我哋希望長者喺認知障礙症嘅早期可以知道，從而作出相對應嘅跟進，減輕患上認知障礙症之後嘅負擔。因為我哋嘅平台主要係 target 一啲 NGO 嘅社工去用嘅。喺疫情底下，因為社交距離嘅措施，令到我哋難啲可以落到長者中心去了解社工嘅日常工作流程，以至到我哋平台開發有啲延誤。因為我哋嘅平台咧係需要配合到啦，同埋方便社工嘅工作，先至可以真正幫到社工。所以我哋亦都借呢次機會同大家分享一下，好多時候我哋揾一啲嘅痛點咧，都淨係透過訪問用家嚟到去得出一啲嘅 insight。但係以我哋經驗嚟講，其實呢個淨係訪問係絕對唔夠嘅，而係需要做多啲實地嘅考察啦，將你嘅產品嘅 prototype 不斷俾用家去試用同埋改進，先至可以將最初構思嘅好處帶到俾用家。另外喺 Hong Kong SEC 比賽入邊，都會有好多擅長唔同領域嘅 mentor 俾意見大家，所以大家喺見 mentor 之前咧，不妨可以先熟讀 mentor 嘅背景資料啦，向 mentor 請教同埋分享佢哋以前嘅一啲相關嘅經驗，相信亦都會帶俾大家更加多嘅 insight。如果你已經有一啲幫助社會解決問題嘅 idea， 唔好猶豫啦，即刻報名參加香港社會企業挑戰賽啦！到時見。
多謝 ScreenMat 嘅分享，而家將時間交俾徐博士，有請。Thank you, ScreenMat, and may we now pass the time to Dr. Choi for the sharing section.
OK， 好啊，咁我哋而家轉一轉台啦，因為我哋 Hong Kong SEC 嘅 event 咧，好多時候我哋都係雙語嘅。咁而家咧就同啲年青人傾偈，咁我諗我哋用廣東話。咁就首先咧就等佢哋可以係先介紹下佢哋自己啦，嚟自邊一個社企，同埋佢係想解決啲咩問題。咁不如由 Sneldy 呢度先啦。
好啊。唔該晒 Elsie testing。係啦，咁大家好，咁我係阿 Rex 啦，咁我係嚟自 Sneldy 嘅團隊嘅。咁我哋其實就係專注於教育科技同埋 SEN 嘅界別嘅一個社企嚟啦，咁樣。咁點解我哋會即係有專注喺呢個界別咧？咁我唔知大家對 SEN 有幾多嘅認知啦，因為相信即係SEN 呢一個嘅詞語特殊教育需要咧，其實大家都聽得多㗎啦。咁我哋其實就係專門為中小學同埋特殊學校嘅一啲老師咧，提供一個校內 SEN 支援嘅一個平台，去幫佢哋解決一啲嘅問題嘅。就係因為其實而家即係喺社會嚟講啦，咁SEN 嘅小朋友其實係個數字係不停咁樣去上升嘅，係啦。咁就以今年為例，其實就已經有5萬幾個嘅 SEN 嘅小朋友。咁佢哋其實每一年咧都會以4000呢個數字每年咁樣去遞增啦。咁所以對於老師嚟講，其實佢哋嗰個嘅 workload 係非常之大嘅。講緊嘅 workload 其實係可能喺校內要需要處理一啲好多唔同嘅文書嘅工作啦， 要去幫好多嘅小朋友去到交一啲嘅文件俾教育局，甚至乎佢哋內部自己亦都需要一啲好多嘅報告啊咁樣去到處理嘅。係啦，咁所以我哋就即係睇到呢一個嘅需求啦咁樣。咁而我哋嘅另一位嘅團隊成員咧，亦都係一位嘅社工嚟嘅。咁佢曾經喺學校嘅中學入面去即係處理呢一啲嘅工作啦。咁就去喺一個學生支援組入面去到做呢啲嘅事情。咁佢喺入呢一個學校之前啦，其實佢都有好大嘅憧憬嘅，就係希望可以同一啲 SN 嘅同學仔去到做一啲輔導啊，一啲嘅相處啊咁樣。咁但係理想同埋現實咧，往往係有一個好大嘅差別啦。咁入到去嘅時候，等緊佢嘅就係好大量嘅文書工作，亦同埋一啲大量嘅報告。咁變相咧，佢亦都係非常之少嘅時間去到同 SN 嘅同學仔去相處啦。咁所以咧，適逢呢個大數據嘅年代啦，以及係資訊科技發達嘅時代，咁我哋就諗會唔會可以透過一啲資訊嘅科技，去幫到一啲 SEN 嘅支援者去到解決佢哋嘅問題。咁而我哋最尾就諗咗 Sdg 呢一個嘅系統平台，希望個目的就係想去令到一啲嘅老師有更加多嘅時間去即係照顧 SN 同學仔，同埋減輕佢哋嘅工作量咁樣嘅。
好啊，唔該晒。咁跟住嚟 Anushka， 我唔知你係識講廣東話講得咁好啊。
我係識講嘅，唔使驚。咁大家好，我叫 Anushka， 我今日係 Breer 嘅代表。咁 Breer 好似你可以估到 ，Breer 係 beer 即係啤酒同埋 bread 麵包一齊擺一齊嘅。咁香港都唔係有好多嘅問題嘅，不過一個好大嘅重要嘅問題係我哋嘅 food waste。咁平時嘅 bakeries restaurant， 如果佢哋唔買晒所有啲麵包咧，佢哋冇辦法就咁要抌嘅。咁 Breer 會收埋所有呢啲麵包，同埋用呢啲麵包整手工啤酒。咁希望你哋會有機會試下我哋個啤酒，同埋會好開心飲嘅。
多謝。Hello， 大家好。我係代表 Senior Deli 嘅 Abalona 咁 Senior Deli 咧係一間生產吞咽困難相關嘅飲品或者食品嘅公司嚟嘅。咁吞咽困難咧係一個好普遍嘅喺長者之間有嘅症狀啦，因為唔同嘅原因，可能係認知障礙啊，或者中風之後都有機會有吞咽困難嘅問題嘅。咁吞咽困難嘅患者咧，要飲啲結啲嘅飲品啦，即係就算連水咧都要整結佢嘅，咁就可以避免佢哋續到。咁而嘢食方面咧，就要食啲糊仔啊、流質狀啲咁嘅嘢食。咁以前過往咧，老人院啊或者在家嘅照顧者咧，都會自己整啲糊仔咁嘅嘢。咁但係咧，有好多老人家咧，因為呢啲糊仔，你想像每日即係經過一生去食一啲美酒佳肴之後，要食日日過住一啲糊仔嘅生活咧，其實都好影響佢哋嘅食慾啊，從而影響佢哋嘅健康嘅。咁所以咧，我哋比較首創嘅咧就係一啲好簡單可以俾院舍或者照顧者去製作到軟餐嘅產品啦，又或者更加方便嘅一啲即食嘅軟餐產品，去俾啲吞咽困難嘅長者用。
咁你可以 keep 住個咪，可能第一陣我又先由你嗰度開始嚇。咁大家都知道，即係過去呢一年對於大家好多人嚟講都好大嘅挑戰啦，同埋香港嘅即係中小企又好、社企又好咁樣。咁所以咧，我都想聽下大家就係話喺過去呢一年因為呢一個疫情嘅挑戰，對於你哋嗰個 business 有啲咩大嘅挑戰？咁你係點樣去解決咗佢哋嘅咧？
好，係啊，冇錯。疫情都對我相信唔同嘅初創或者任何嘅business 都好大影響啦。咁我哋尤其是係做老人家嘅，老人家喺呢個疫情入邊係一啲高危嘅群族。咁我哋產品正式 launch 嘅時候咧，就適逢疫情比較嚴重，即係舊年大概年尾嘅時候。咁其實都對我哋嘅最初嘅 launch 嘅銷路啊，點樣介紹俾市場咧，都有幾大影響嘅。因為嗰陣時係即係院舍唔會俾我哋去見面啦，去介紹我哋嘅產品或者示範我哋啲產品點樣用。咁但係冇辦法，我相信作為一間初創公司或者任何 business 都要適應唔同嘅unexpected， 即係預料之外嘅情況。咁疫情只係其中一個。咁我覺得個重點就係要靈活咯。咁我哋嗰陣時就係透過好彩嘅就係，雖然我哋就啱啱好趕緊喺疫情最嚴重之前呢，香港有個樂齡科技展呢係成功舉辦到嘅。咁我哋從嗰個展覽呢，就得到好多院舍 contact。咁我哋就算見唔到面，我哋有時有啲網上嘅示範啊，或者保持聯繫。咁到疫情慢慢好翻嘅時候呢，就接觸翻啊，咁去慢慢介紹咯。咁唔係話冇影響，但係真係即係按情況咁去適應咯。
咁Anushka咧
？Thank you。咁我覺得 人人都會講個 pandemic 係一個好大嘅問題，因為好多嘢都係唔同嘅。譬如香港嘅 food and beverage industry 都有一個好大嘅 effect， 因為啲人冇機會可以去佢哋個 favourite 嘅 restaurant 食嘢或者飲嘢。咁我哋係好彩係 pandemic 嘅時間先係開始咗做 brewer 嘅。不過我點解我係講好彩咧？因為我哋係見到呢個 pandemic 係一個好大嘅機會，睇下香港嘅即係 likes 同埋 dislike 點可以轉嘅，同埋我哋係見到呢個 change 點可以 pivot 我哋自己嘅 business model。咁之前啲人中意飲酒嘅時間，佢哋會去唔同嘅 restaurants 買即係 order啤酒飲嘅 ，for example。咁嗰個 business model 係啲 brewery 應該會整啲啤酒係 sell 啲 kegs 俾啲 restaurant， 唔係 sell 啲cans 或者 bottles。不過一見到啲人冇機會可以去呢啲 restaurant 飲酒，我哋係見即係其他人要用多啲時間 pivot， 即係轉咪而家唔做啲 beer production 係落啲 kegs， 而家做 bottles 或者 cans。不過因為我哋係開始緊，我哋唔使 change 或者唔使 save 啲 money， 我哋已經見到其實啲人唔可以飲啤酒 on tap or in glasses。咁我哋 switch 埋我哋個 business model，focus on 整啲 bottles 或者整啲 cans。咁我覺得係一個好大嘅 learning journey 俾我哋，同埋我哋係可以用呢個 pandemic 嘅時間 as a boon to pivot 我哋嘅 business model and do well。
多謝，非常有趣。
咁我哋 Sneldy 啦，同另外兩組啦，其實嗰個情況都係差唔多嘅，因為我哋都係喺參加呢個比賽之前，即係疫情之前就已經開始係 run 緊嘅。咁尤其是對我哋嚟講啦，咁其實疫情嗰個打擊都算係大嘅。咁我相信各行各業都係。咁尤其是我哋即係做學校，咁教育界其實佢嗰個混亂嘅情況都係幾亂嘅。咁但係對我哋嚟講，其實都係一個雙面人啦。係啦，咁喺我哋遇到嘅困難嗰方面，其實都係離不開最開頭係sales 嗰方面，即係去到揾一啲老師去到present 我哋嘅 idea 嗰陣，係啦。咁因為我都即係分享多少少啦。咁上年2020嘅4、5月嗰陣啦，咁其實第一波爆發得最勁嘅時候咧，咁學校不論係中小學又好啦，咁定係其他大專院校咧，幾乎都係喺復課同埋停課之間轉縮嘅，係啦。咁變相我哋即係去揾一啲唔同老師嘅時候咧，咁係會有少少即係難啲去揾嘅，因為講緊老師可能喺今個禮拜係知道學校停課，但係可能下個禮拜又突然復翻課，咁就可能半日咁樣。咁所以即係喺呢個節奏嚟講，其實我哋都某程度上係被打亂嘅。咁但係即係我哋都知道，其實學校入面嗰個規律啦，咁樣都知道就係即係就算疫情嘅時候，佢哋係需要輪班嘅，係啦，即係翻 shift 咁樣啦。咁所以我哋其實都知道佢哋嗰個時間係點樣，我哋再對準嗰個嘅time period 咁樣去揾佢哋去即係約一個時間咁樣。咁佢哋都非常之樂意啦，咁係啦。咁但係好嘅一邊咧，其實就係俾咗我哋一個好大嘅啟示，就係好多時而家呢個嘅年代啦，都係好多時都係講求一啲 online 上面嘅嘢。咁我哋將我哋嘅一啲 promotion 啦，咁樣去轉由線下就轉咗上去線上，係啦。咁當時其實我哋就即係用好多嘅方法去適應呢一個疫情嘅。咁就例如係我哋用多咗一啲 social media 嘅一啲策略，係啦。因為其實即係而家好多嘅老師咧，都係會用 Facebook 啊、用 Instagram 啊、咁樣嗰啲嘅 social media 去接觸呢啲資訊嘅。咁我哋透過 social media 去到即係擴大咗我哋嗰個 promotion 嗰個嘅時候咧，咁即係多咗好多嘅老師都留意到我哋 Sneldy 嘅一個系統嘅解決方案咁樣咯。
好好啊，因為頭先幾位朋友嘅分享咧，可以睇到就係其實喺初創企業咧有一個非常之重要，就係我哋係要好 nimble 嚇，即係有啲咩事發生，我哋要好快咁樣咧去做一個改變。咁我睇到其實你哋幾位咧都做咗非常之好嘅即係對應嘅策略啦。咁可以話將嗰個叫做 disadvantage 或者將個 challenge 就變成一個嘅你哋嘅優點咁樣樣，咁非常好。咁嗱，我諗好多朋友咧都好想知道咧，就係而家係你哋贏咗幾個月啦，咁你就開始即係都已經有個好好嘅進展。咁大家都好想知道咧，你下一個 milestone 係啲咩？你想 achieve 啲乜嘢喎？咁不如由你開始講啊。
好啊。咁其實我哋即係而家個系統啦，就主要係 serve 中學同埋小學同埋特殊學校嘅老師嘅。咁我哋即係都希望其實將個 system 擴展去到唔同嘅大專院校啊、幼稚園啊等等，因為其實好多唔同嘅即係可能大專咁樣啦，咁佢哋其實 SN 同學仔升上去嘅時候，佢哋都會有相應嘅支援，但係可能嗰個支援仲少過喺中小學所受到嘅支援嘅。咁所以我哋即係希望可以透過呢個系統 去到幫助一啲大專院校同埋幼稚園嘅一啲老師去解決呢一啲大量工作嘅一個工作量係啦。咁同時我哋亦都係好 focus 喺一個資料轉移啦，就係點樣去做到由一位 SN 同學仔由確診開始，由幼稚園去到大專院校嘅時候嗰啲嘅文件嘅處理，點樣去令到一啲唔同嘅老師更加容易接手嗰個同學仔嘅一啲文件。咁其實我哋即係贏咗呢個比賽嘅時候，即係開始都逐步去到即係去向住呢個方向去行啦咁樣。咁當然我哋而家即係呢一年我哋會做嘅就係我哋會先完善咗我哋嗰個嘅系統上面嘅功能先，係啦，先滿足咗中小學同埋特殊學校嘅一啲嘅需要，然後再擴展去到其他嗰兩方面嘅學校咁樣。
好啊，唔該晒。好，咁 Bria 你哋。
係咁，其實上個禮拜我哋係 celebrate 咗我哋個 1 year anniversary，咁好開心整咗一個 proper 香港嘅公司。咁我哋參加咗 HKSEC 嘅比賽嘅時間都，我哋最大嘅 brew batch 係淨係500 liters 嘅。咁好即係唔係好耐之前，我哋係整咗4000 liters of 啤酒。咁你可以見到係一個好大嘅 jump 嚟嘅。咁呢個係因為我哋已經有好多嘅 partners 同埋好多嘅 mentors，譬如 HKSEC 嘅 mentorship committee 都係幫助我哋好多。咁用咗呢啲機會同埋呢啲 platform，我哋覺得我哋可以整多啲啤酒，同埋有機會俾多啲香港人睇下呢個 project 同埋試下飲。咁我哋個 next goal 或者 next milestone 係 hopefully 所有嘅香港嘅 bars、restaurants、bottle shops 都有 brewer， 同埋好多盡大嘅香港嘅 population 有機會可以試下 brewer。
好多謝晒。
咁我哋產品可以分為3樣啦，有凝固粉，即係飲嘢方面嘅，有啲係粉係俾院舍或者照顧者自己製作軟餐嘅。咁我哋嚟緊最興奮、最期待嘅咧，就係我哋嘅即食原貌軟餐咧，係即將係喺香港 launch。咁個獨特之處咧，就係可能而家現有都有其他機構或者公司咧，係製作一啲ready 嘅軟餐嘅。咁但係我哋個 unique selling point 咧，就係佢係原貌嘅，即係冇經過打爛啦，係同即係我哋平時食嘅嘢食係一模一樣樣。咁我哋就好想即係將呢個咁獨特嘅產品帶俾更多嘅，不論係我哋叫做B to B 啦，即係俾我哋以我哋嘅公司嚟講就係院舍啦，或者其他嘅有照顧吞嚥困難患者嘅機構啦，同埋係普羅大眾嘅照顧者。咁所以喺introduce 呢個產品嘅同時咧，亦都係想做更加多嘅公眾教育，去俾大家意識到吞嚥困難啦，同埋有啲咩解決方案咁樣咯。
好啊，非常好。咁我諗頭先咧，大家都聽到好多，就係佢哋而家有啲新嘅發展啦。無論係有一個即係對於個用家有啲咩新嘅痛點嘅理解啊，新嘅產品啊，甚至可能有一啲有新嘅 partner 咁樣，咁都係非常之 exciting 嘅。咁我諗今日因為我哋時間度多少少咧，所以我就想貪心就問多少少問題咧，就係因為我頭先聽到你哋本身都係似乎對你哋嘅 user 啊，或者係你哋嘅嗰啲客人嘅所謂叫痛點咧，都有一定嘅理解咁樣。咁所以我都想咧，你哋可以分享一下，就係話其實過去呢一段時間入邊有啲乜嘢嘢，即係新嘅啟發，你睇到令到你原來我哋嘅 user、我哋嘅 customer、我哋嘅客咧，原來係咁諗嘅啊！咁即係有到啲咩新嘅嘢係啟發咗你咧？過去呢12個月。
係啊，其實咧不斷同唔同嘅院舍或者要用我哋產品嘅人去溝通咧，其實都係一個不斷學習或者更加了解市場需要嘅過程。咁因為我哋係自己研發，係我哋叫做係全港首間係自己研發軟餐產品嘅公司啦。咁我哋可能研發最初未接觸市場嘅時候，有自己嘅諗法啊，呢個產品有呢個特性係好好嘅。咁但係之後launch 啦，即係初介紹呢個產品俾市場嘅時候咧，佢哋又會話我哋想有咁樣喎，呢個又有啲咩特性係咁樣係好啲喎。咁我哋都不斷去聆聽佢哋嘅需要啦，然後我哋可唔可以繼續微調我哋嘅產品嘅formula 係達到佢哋嘅要求咧？咁但係都又係一個困難，因為即係達到一啲人嘅要求嘅同時，又可能係一啲取捨嚟嘅，又有其他嘅特性咧係科學上係唔可以兩全其美嘅，咁就係要取一個平衡咯。咁所以就係不斷去聆聽需要啦，係去 fine tune 去美化我哋嘅產品咯。
好啊。 其實我記得咧，之前我有個機會同你傾過偈，我知道係因為疫情之下咧，其實都有好多嘢喺度改咗。我知道你都有一啲，因為有唔同嘅 partner 嘅改變，就有啲唔同嘅，或者你可以分享下你某啲經驗啦。
好啊，咁我覺得啲人聽我哋係整緊啤酒，佢哋已經有啲即係 judgy 嘅feeling，佢哋係啊，佢哋次次都會諗啤酒蒸啤酒都係可以即係 social enterprise 嚟㗎。咁我覺得我哋 interact 咗我哋嘅客一齊咧，學到啲人其實唔想知道你哋可以整咩嘅啤酒，或者啲啤酒係咪好好飲，係佢哋想睇下你個公司嘅目的係咩，你哋個 passion 係咩，同埋你哋做咩可以諗到咁嘅 idea， 同埋做咩係你哋4個 for example 喺 brewer 入面係最好嘅人可以做咁嘅 project。咁我記得我有好多嘅朋友，佢哋都唔中意飲酒嘅，同埋如果佢哋中意飲酒，佢哋唔中意飲啤酒。不過佢哋聽到我哋做緊 brewer 咁嘅 idea， 佢哋知道呢個啤酒係啤酒嚟嘅，係好好飲嚟嘅。不過個大啲嘅 mission 係整香港嘅 food wastage 嘅問題走嘅。咁佢哋有興趣試下嘅。咁我好多嘅朋友，佢哋唔中意飲酒，唔中意飲啤酒，不過佢哋都會中意去即係出去買brewer， 因為佢哋想 support 呢個 cause， 同埋佢哋覺得個 mission 係帶多啲嗰個 product 或者個 product 嘅 judgment。同埋Elsie 頭先講，我哋有好多唔同嘅 partners， 譬如我哋係做緊 bread donation。咁有時我哋收埋所有啲麵包都唔可以用晒所有嘅麵包整啤酒嘅。咁我哋係同一個香港嘅 restaurant 一齊合作，做啲 bread donations 俾啲老人家食嘅。咁我哋係同佢哋一齊傾緊，佢哋都會諗，其實你唔係印度人嚟嘅咩？咁我會話係啊，我係嘅。咁佢話：咁你做咩想幫啲香港人，或者你做咩喺度做緊啲 food donation 啊？咁我覺得呢個 experience 係俾啲香港人，同埋我自己都見到，其實你唔係一定要你嘅即係 look 同埋 feel 唔係一定要係香港人嘅，係你個心入邊你覺唔覺得你係香港人嘅？咁我覺得呢個係 of course brewer 嘅好嘅 journey， 不過我自己個 personal journey 都可以同香港我嘅屋企 connect 下多啲。
係，你真係呢樣嘢講得好好，我忍唔住啦，又要講多幾句嘢。就係頭先你講一樣嘢就係即係作為即係可能大家會覺得，咦，你係一位印度朋友，點解咁關心香港咧？咁但係我諗都有個好重要嘅 message 可以講翻，就係其實香港一個國際城市，香港咧亦都有好多咧係其他國籍嘅人士喺度住。咁識我嘅朋友都知道，其實我係泰國人嚟嘅。但係即係大家唔係好留意到。咁所以其實香港係我哋所有人共同嘅家。其實我哋一樣係有對香港嘅愛，同埋我哋有一個社會使命係可以去幫助香港。咁我亦都好希望咧，香港嘅所謂朋友咧都會記得，就係我哋所有人無論不同嘅膚色，講唔同嘅話，其實咧可能都係有共同一個心，大家可以一齊咁做一個美好嘅社會嘅。咁好，咁我哋就係去問下 Neldy 啦。咁關於即係 user 嘅 pain point 方面嘅體會咁樣。
好啊，唔該 Elsie。咁其實即係過去1年啦，咁我諗其實我哋即係對於我哋嘅一啲 user， 即係一啲老師嗰個嘅需求，發生咗好多新嘅睇法嘅。係啦，即係雖然我哋其實團隊入面咧有一啲背景係 SN 人嘅同學嘅一啲團隊成員啦，同時又有做過社工嘅一啲成員，咁但係其實去了解老師嗰個實際用家嗰個睇法，其實都係有少少距離嘅。咁所以其實呢1年透過即係不斷咁樣去同一啲老師去到溝通嘅時候啦，咁去了解翻佢哋用完呢個系統，咦原來係咪真係好貼地咁樣針對到佢哋嗰個嘅需要咧咁樣。咁喺呢方面其實我哋即係都有好多嘅諗法，就係我哋之前喺整個 prototype 之前，其實我哋係冇諗過嘅。係啦，咁當然我哋即係順住嗰個嘅feedback， 咁我哋其實都加咗好多嘅新嘅一啲功能啦，一啲唔同嘅一啲 style 入去個系統度，令到個系統可以更加 user friendly。係啦，因為喺學校入面咧，對老師嚟講，其實佢哋即係日理萬機啦，要做嘅嘢其實就好多。咁佢哋個即係諗法就係即係冇咩都唔好搞到佢哋。咁其實我哋個系統都係向住呢一個嘅原意，點樣去到減輕佢哋工作量之餘，操作起上嚟又可以容易啲去處理之間去攞個平衡嘅。 係啦。咁而即係我哋即係呢半年啦，咁樣其實都即係有一啲以前係做過老師嘅一啲團隊成員去加入我哋嘅團隊嘅。咁對我哋而家嚟講，其實係一支好強嘅強心針嚟嘅，係因為佢真係能夠去表達到即係一個老師嘅實際諗法，同埋佢可以拓展到個橋梁去到同其他嘅老師去到攞一啲更加新嘅 feedback 咁樣咯。
非常好啊！咁我諗過去呢一段時間咧，其實我自己都睇到大家即係有好大嘅成長啦。因為我好記得就係啱啱大家 submit 第一次嘅即係你哋個稿啊，寫你要做啲咩嘅時候咧，咁我又有睇嘅，所以我都好記得。其實你哋幾個 ventures 都係我覺得非常之深刻印象。咁每一次咧，你哋同佢哋再傾一次咧，都係有多一次嘅進步。咁而我相信咧，我哋嘅 mentors 咧都俾咗你哋好多唔同嘅意見啊，咁樣樣。咁我諗你都可能要知道，就係我哋其實揾 mentor 嗰陣時，我哋其實都好專心咁樣去配對嘅。譬如係Bria 嘅 team，我係揾過即係我以前一個舊同事，係有 food and beverage 經驗，係做嘅即係呢一類型嘅 industry， 並且係 marketing 嘅 expert 去幫你哋啦。咁你嘅 Senior Daly 你有位嘅係亦都係一位前輩，就係對於即係飲食嗰方面係好有 experience 啦。Sneldy 咁你都係我哋揾到個 mentors， 其實對於學校呢個 market 都好熟悉嘅。咁所以我諗我哋都好開心係睇緊大家嘅進步咁多。咁而作為一個我哋叫 Hong Kong SEC 嘅師兄師姐啦，你哋已經成為師兄師姐啦。咁我希望咧可以即係貪心少少，想大家幫我哋做一個少少嘅宣傳。所以我想你哋每位咧可以幫我哋咧就係鼓勵一下大家多啲人 Hong Kong SEC 係嘛？你先啦。
咁其實對於做一間即係搞一間嘅 startup 啦，或者係 social enterprise 嚟講咧，咁好多人都講過句説話，就係即係好多嘢就試咗之後，我哋再諗啦。咁呢其實即係我都係非常之同意嘅。咁但係即係作為即係點樣去試咧？咁其實好多人都應該未必有去諗過，係啦。咁我覺得 Hong Kong SEC 其實就係一個第一步去俾你試嘅一個過程嚟嘅。因為好多即係一啲坊間嘅一啲唔同嘅funding啊，咁可能都有一啲好高嘅要求啦咁樣。咁 Hong Kong SEC 其實就係即係專課係一啲年輕人啦，甚至乎係去到仲讀緊書嘅一啲嘅人士去到即係去接觸咁樣嘅。咁同埋即係喺 Hong Kong SEC 入面啦，咁不論你係咪諗住贏都好，其實你都係會有得着嘅，係啦。咁因為過程入面即係都會安排3至4次去會面一啲嘅 mentors， 去到俾好多嘅意見你哋啦咁樣。咁所以其實我哋真係非常之即係鼓勵大家，即係如果大家要試的話咧，其實係可以去即係參加開呢個 Hong Kong SEC，去到了解下其實social enterprise 係啲乜嘢嚟啦，甚至乎可能你會揾到啲好好嘅隊友嘅。咁所以 Hong Kong SEC 就俾咗好多啲機會俾我哋咯。
咁我記得我哋想一開始整 Breer 嘅時間，我真係好驚，因為我次次都會問我自己，我喺邊度可以攞到啲 funding， 邊度可以攞到啲 advice， 可以問邊個啲 questions， 同埋邊度可以即係揾新嘅朋友啦。咁我想話俾你哋聽 ，HKSEC 係一個 one stop shop， 你所有嘢都可以揾到嘅，你會可以攞到啲 funding， 你梗係會整好多新嘅朋友，同埋你會有機會，如果你有啲問題咧，你會有啲 industry professionals 幫你答啲問題，同埋因為佢哋已經有好多嘅 experience， 佢哋已經之前做咗你而家想做嘅嘢，佢哋真係可以好 objectively share 佢哋個 experience 同埋佢哋個 advice 俾你，同埋你可以揀你想唔想學或者用埋佢哋個 advice。咁我嘅 advice 係好簡單嘅，係2個嘢，一個係 just do it， 同埋第二個係 be mad。咁 bad 都唔係crazy 嗰個 mad 係 making a difference。你次次都想整一個initiative 或者想開始一個 part of 你哋嘅 social enterprise， 你哋要諗埋做咩？你點可以用呢個 initiative 整一個 difference， 或者幫埋啲人係世界嘅人？咁係啊，希望你哋會開始同埋參加 HKSEC。
咁之前2位winning team 嘅成員都講得好好啦，基本上都係我想分享嘅 point， 就係參加一個比賽啦。咁作為一個，我諗如果大家係已經有一個 idea 係想開始嘅，但係就成日好似遲啊，等我完善啲先啦，等下年啦咁樣。咁我覺得就係唔應該話到我 ready 嘅時候先至點，而係我哋決定咗參呢個比賽，就算而家呢一刻未 ready， 我哋係喺 deadline 之前 make it ready， 就係 do it now 係啦，好似啱啱之前所講。咁HK Hong Kong SEC 咧 喺唔同嘅比賽入邊，我覺得係比較完善。首先係香港比較標誌性，如果你嘅初創係真係做 social enterprise 嘅嘢嘅話，就梗係一定要參加呢個啦。另外佢嘅 support system 係真係達到啱啱所講嘅，即係不論係 mentorship 啊，又 networking 啊，又或者佢成個比賽過程有一個 stage 去下一個 stage， 不斷係令到你更加認真咁思考你個 startup 係點樣fine tune 呢個 idea， 點樣 fine tune 個 business model 係令到佢 work 嘅，到最後贏咗啦，之後嘅 support system 都係非常之完善嘅，所以不論係喺邊個 stage 嘅時候，都係一個即係眾芸芸比賽入邊比較完善嘅一個，所以咧就係啦，不要遲疑，就係下年唔係今一屆一定要參加。
好多謝晒，因為講得非常之好啊！即係我哋完全覺得好幸運地咧，原來我哋嘅啲 winners 就係我哋好好嘅 spokespersons 啊！咁好似正如頭先啊幾位都有講，係Hong Kong SEC有一個好好嘅俾你哋學習嘅機會啦。仲有好緊要一樣嘢就係，就算你未有一個好清楚嘅 ideas 都好啦，我哋嘅第一輪嘅 training 咧，我哋係會可以幫助到你哋係更有啟發啦。咁同埋咧，亦都係可以 form 到 teams 咁樣。咁所以咧就期待咧大家踴躍咁樣去參加Hong Kong SEC。就係一個機會啦，可以識好多嘅人啦，可以俾一啲 mentors 啊，同埋其他嘅 professional 教導啦。咁喺呢度咧，我都想即係藉住呢個機會咧，就係再次多謝我哋 Hong Kong SEC 咁多年嘅即係所有嘅 partners，尤其是我哋嘅 mentors 啊、judges 啊咁樣。好多時候咧，就係因為冇咁嘅 occasion 咧，去即係同佢哋再講一出衷心嘅感謝，因為我哋每一年咧都要需要好多人嘅支持，咁期待咧你哋繼續咧同我哋一齊行呢個 journey 嘅。多謝晒，多謝晒幾位今日。
多謝晒咁多位嘅分享 ，Thank you all for the sharing session。香港社會企業挑戰賽2021開幕典禮已經接近尾聲。The inauguration ceremony of Hong Kong SEC 2021 is now coming to an end。挑戰賽將於10月21號截止報名，詳情請到我哋嘅網站瀏覽。Enrollment deadline is 21st of October。Please visit our website for more details。再次多謝大家，希望下次Hong Kong SEC嘅活動會見到你哋。We hope to see you again in our future events and thank you once again for the participation. Have a nice weekend.